Hi, my name is Brianna Vestal. Today's date is December 8th, and today I am going to be talking about the diversity in my community. So at the beginning of this class, we had a module about self-awareness, and within that self-awareness module, there was an article by the author Beverly Tanum. She was basically talking about who you are as a person and how you can find that out about yourself. So within her article, she basically was telling us to ask ourselves a couple questions, and two of the questions that really stood out to me was, what kind of community are you living in, and are you the minority in your community? So this is kind of where I wanted to decide to start with my presentation. I decided to start based off of this article, and I kind of just asked myself these questions, and it kind of changed my perspective of the whole way I wanted to go about this project. So this article really helped me to figure out the path I wanted to go to get started. So before I get started, I just wanted to address that I'm going to be using two main communities in my presentation today. I'm going to be using Kalamazoo as a whole and then our campus as another community. So I would define a community as a group of people that live in the same area or in like the same place, same neighborhood, something like that. Or you can also describe it as a group of people with the same interests, same hobbies, same race, sharing their liked interest and stuff to create that kind of safe space. So as a whole, Kalamazoo is very diverse, as well as the university. While walking around the university, I always see all kinds of different cultures and people from all over the world. But Kalamazoo specifically celebrates Black History Month. Right now they are not celebrating it since it's not Black History Month, but they use a variety of different exhibits, dance performances, videos, films, and sometimes they even have panelists that come in to talk about Black History Month and just to give some education and to answer some questions that anybody might have. So there is definitely a lot of ups and downs about living in Kalamazoo, but I would say I really don't have any big challenges in my community. The only one that I could really think of would be the crime rates. Kalamazoo is very high in crime, which kind of creates like a hostile environment, not hostile, but like people don't feel so safe and everything, and they just don't feel comfortable in their community. So that would be my biggest challenge I feel about living here. Other than that, Kalamazoo has a lot of great assets that can bring people into their community. Western Michigan University being one of them. So with Western being in the town of Kalamazoo, it brings a lot of people to Kalamazoo for their education, which is giving Kalamazoo higher rates for all kinds of things. So one of the things that stood out to me the most coming from a small town, we don't have very many like big cities or busing systems, so I was really never introduced to that kind of thing until I got here. So Kalamazoo, as well as the university, offer a busing system that goes all around the community of Kalamazoo, including Western, and it gives students and people the chance to take the bus if they don't have a car or a way to get around, or if it's cold outside they don't have to walk. But it also gives people in our community a chance to get from one place to another and be safe and not have to worry about walking in the dark by themselves or other aspects that they could feel unsafe, considering that Kalamazoo is pretty high in crime. When picking Western, I picked Western, of course, because of the academics, but also because of the beautiful campus. And before I had picked Western, I had not seen around campus or outside of campus, being the Kalamazoo area. And I wanted to use Western Michigan Avenue as an example of how I don't think that the aesthetic of my community is where it should be. So using Western Michigan Avenue as an example, there is a lot of trash on the side of the road as well as abandoned buildings, one which is going to be coming up on the right side by the Marathon and the library bar. There is lots of property damage and graffiti all over Kalamazoo. If you just go downtown, there's lots of buildings who have smashed in windows or graffiti all over them. I also want to say that there is trash everywhere. Usually there is trash lining the streets right here. Seems to be pretty clean right now, but most of the time there is always trash lining the streets. And I also cannot go 30 minutes without hearing police sirens or some sort of siren going past my apartment, which I just personally would not want the aesthetic of my community to be. I think we can improve this by trying to clean up our community and not littering so much, as well as paying attention to places that have been abandoned and might need a bit more care. So my definition of diversity is much different from the definition we are given in our textbook by our author, whose last name is Rose, and the book was created in 2018. She explains diversity as the parameters of opportunities for everyone, except I would just explain diversity as a place or community having a range of people with different racial, socio-economical, cultural, and ethnic backgrounds. Diversity can also be used to describe a group of people with different lifestyles, hobbies, and interests. I would say my community is very diverse. Kalamazoo has lots of different people from different cultural backgrounds and different places around the world, as well as having the balance between the community feel and the university feel, where all of these houses and different things are part of people who actually live in the community of Kalamazoo and don't just go to school here. I would also say that the university alone is home to many different people from all kinds of different cultural, ethnic, and socioeconomic backgrounds as well. Something that struck me the most about my community, especially on campus, would be is there are so many different races and different kinds of people and people from different countries all sharing the same hobbies and goals while trying to get their education at Western Michigan University. While driving and walking around downtown Kalamazoo, I definitely did notice that there was lots of public restrooms and different things all over downtown, including our public library, which is right over there. I also wanted to point out that we also have very many hospitals and doctors' offices in Kalamazoo, giving people the opportunity to get health care wherever needed. I personally do not know of any museums in Kalamazoo, but I bet there is some. So something that was really unexpected to me was that Kalamazoo does not really have that balance between city and country vibes. So what I mean by that is I came from a very small town and I was surrounded by cornfields and crop fields, so not very much of these big roads and big city vibes. So I was very unexpected to notice that Kalamazoo did not have that balance like most cities usually do. I also wanted to point out that it was very unexpected to me, being a college town, that we have all of these different residential neighborhoods, this one being Kenbrook Court. People from all over Kalamazoo live here. This is housing to anybody who lives in Kalamazoo, students, parents with kids who go to Kalamazoo schools, and anybody, of course, living here. So it was very unexpected to see neighborhoods like this in a college town. On a quick tangent, while you also have to be culturally diverse, you also have to be disability diverse in your community as well. Just from driving around town and campus, I have seen lots of people using electric wheelchairs on the sidewalks to get around, as well as the Kalamazoo busing system provides wheelchair and walker accessible buses as well. There are also many wheelchair ramps on campus, including this one at Sandgren Hall and some at the library as well. These are just a couple examples, but there are more examples, of course. I also wanted to use campus as my example to show how doors are accessible to people in wheelchairs in my community. On campus, most of the doors, if not all, have automatic push buttons, and some of them even have sliding automatic doors like these ones at Sandgren Hall. Outside of campus, most stores and buildings have automatic buttons and automatic sliding doors as well for people in wheelchairs to get easier access to the building. As I do not have very much personal experience with this, I have seen much of it in my community and on campus. Things like bumps on the sidewalks before streets and talking or flashing crosswalks can help visually and hearing impaired people get around in my community. Another way to help people who are visually and hearing impaired get around our community, Western Michigan University holds a ton of classes for blind and hearing impaired individuals to help them learn how to access things in their community, while also hooking them up with a mentor to help them get acclimated to their community and showing them everything that they can do to get around a lot easier. So in one of our modules for this class, we had gone over an article written by an author with the last name of Fernandez. It was published in 2018. It was the Health and Disparities with African Americans module, I believe. So I wanted to just quickly stop at an apartment complex to kind of demonstrate how people in our community are treated differently based on their socioeconomic status. So it is, according to the article, it is true that education and socioeconomic status is often associated with poorer health, which this could be an issue in our community considering that not all people have access to education, being that universities are very expensive, as well as not being able to get housing in a college town, considering most people in this town are college students, making it harder for them to get the financial responsibility to pay for things. So I thought using apartment complexes on Fraternity Village Drive would be a great example for how people are treated in our community for different socioeconomic statuses. So considering that our town is full of college students, you would think that people in our community would help college students by creating cheaper restaurants and stores, which they have done, but also creating cheaper and more accessible apartment facilities. Places in our community, including the owners of this property right here, do not rent or sell their properties to college students unless they have a guarantor, because they feel that college students are not going to be able to pay for everything that they need to pay for and keep up on the rent, which this is a great way of showing how people are treated with different socioeconomic statuses. So one way I would define being in good health, or the word health, would be that you are mentally and physically where you need to be for your height and weight. That is kind of the overall definition medically as well. But it is also the holistic approach of the well-being of your spiritual, your emotional, your mental, your physical, and your intuitive, coming all together to create one whole healthy well-being of us ourselves. So after discussing the health in my community, there is a lot of things that we can do as a community to help the healthiness of our community and the people within it. So one of the things that I think that we could do would probably be to promote mental and physical health, so giving more talks about it, promoting more facilities and more places and events that people can go if they need help with that. Another thing would be to open more facilities for people who are either like homeless, or if they're disabled and they aren't able to go to regular facilities like the gym or the store or things like that. So just making it a lot more inclusive for everybody in our community. I also think it would be really helpful to create a more diverse atmosphere within the disability side of things. So creating new methods for transportation for them, and while also opening new places and opening more opportunities for them within our community to make it a little bit easier and feel them more included in our community. I also think it would be very beneficial to help the health of our community if we were able to keep it clean. A lot of the time there is trash and all kinds of stuff all over the community, as well as all the abandoned buildings and stuff like that. I feel like if we were to clean up and kind of help our community to regain its beauty, it would help a lot of the mental health for people being in a much more new and renovated place rather than everything being run down and vandalized.